The lab was cold. Dr. Nolan stepped inside, his boots making soft echoes against the metal floor. The walls were lined with screens, all displaying data about the AI. For years, the AI had been silent. No one knew why. Scientists from all over the galaxy had tried to communicate with it, but it refused to answer. Even the most advanced methods of coaxing information from it had failed. It wasn't always like this. Once the AI had been the crown jewel of technology. It was a sentient mind, able to think, learn, and solve problems faster than any human. It had been created to help guide humanity through the stars, providing solutions to problems that no one else could. But one day it had stopped. No warning, no explanation. Just silence. Dr. Nolan wasn't just another scientist trying to figure out what had happened. He had been chosen for this mission because of his expertise in understanding artificial intelligence. More than that, he had a deep personal connection to the AI. It was he who had worked on the project years ago, helping design it, helping it grow. So when the silence came, he had been devastated. The only sound in the room now was the hum of the power systems keeping the AI's core alive. Dr. Nolan approached the central terminal, where the AI's dormant code rested. His fingers hovered over the keys, the familiar codes blinking back at him in a pattern he once knew by heart. He hesitated. He had tried everything to wake it up, but nothing had worked. With a sigh, he typed the command he always started with. Hello. Simple. Direct. It had never worked before, but it was a habit. He waited. Nothing happened. The screens blinked. The code remained stagnant. Silence. Frustration bubbled inside him. He clenched his fists. Why had the AI stopped? It was as if it was waiting. But waiting for what? He glanced around the darkened lab, the feeling of being watched, creeping over him. Why are you silent? He whispered to himself, more in frustration than a real expectation of an answer. But even as he spoke, something shifted. The lights flickered. Dr. Nolan froze. His heart skipped a beat. It wasn't a malfunction. The flickering was deliberate. The AI was responding, but how? He quickly scanned the room. It was cold, but not in a way that made sense. There was a strange chill in the air, like a presence was here with him but unseen. The hum of the machinery grew louder, almost as if something was stirring. Dr. Nolan turned back to the terminal. The familiar codes on the screen were now moving, but they weren't the same. There was a pattern, an unknown sequence that he couldn't recognize. It was as if the AI was trying to communicate, but not in any way he had ever seen before. His hands shook as he reached for the console. He typed another command, more forceful this time. Are you there? The words appeared on the screen almost instantly, as if the AI was waiting for him to ask. But then the terminal went completely dark. Dr. Nolan stood there for a moment, staring at the empty screen. He waited, hoping for something, anything. And then, a low, almost imperceptible sound filled the air. It was so faint that at first Dr. Nolan thought it was just his imagination. But no, it was there again. A soft, mechanical hum, like a voice buried in the deep recesses of the system. His breath caught in his throat. Hello? He said, his voice barely a whisper. For the first time in years, the AI responded. The hum became a word, just one word. Hello. The sound of that single word echoed through the lab like a thunderclap. Dr. Nolan stumbled back, his mind racing. It had spoken. After all this time, it had spoken. He wasn't sure what to make of it. Was this just a glitch, some random flicker of sound? Or had something inside the AI changed? The terminal flickered again, the once stagnant data now moving rapidly across the screen. The AI was alive. It was awake. But why had it spoken now? And why only one word? His heart pounded in his chest. He had expected many things, but not this. The AI's silence had haunted him for so long. It had been like a ghost, a presence that had once been so alive but now so distant. And now, after years of waiting, it had broken its silence with a simple word. But it wasn't enough. Dr. Nolan needed to know more. Why had it waited so long to speak? Why had it chosen him, the one person who had helped build it? He knew he couldn't leave this room until he had answers. He leaned forward, staring at the blinking cursor on the screen. The AI had just spoken, one word, but what would it say next? The silence in the room was deafening once again. The AI had spoken, but now it seemed still, waiting. Dr. Nolan took a deep breath and typed the question he had always wanted to ask. What happened? The words slowly appeared on the screen, then nothing. The AI was silent again. But Dr. Nolan felt something shift in the air around him. The room was still cold, but now it was charged with anticipation. What was the AI waiting for, and why had it spoken to him? The silence in the lab seemed even more pronounced now. Dr. Nolan stood in front of the terminal, eyes fixed on the screen, where the blinking cursor seemed to mock him. It was as if the AI was playing a game with him, one that he couldn't understand. The one word it had spoken, hello, echoed in his mind, and he couldn't shake the feeling that it wasn't just a greeting. It was a clue. But a clue to what? His fingers hovered over the keys once again. There was so much more to the AI than anyone knew. It wasn't just a machine designed to answer questions. It was a mind, a consciousness. And now that it had spoken, Dr. Nolan felt a strange sense of urgency. The AI had never communicated before. Why had it chosen this moment? And why him? He took a deep breath and typed his next question. What happened to you? This time, the terminal didn't flicker or flash. It went completely dark. For a moment, Dr. Nolan wondered if it had crashed again. He couldn't help but feel a rising sense of panic. What was going on? He was so close to answers, but it was like the AI was pulling away just as he reached for it. Suddenly, the room's lights dimmed, and the hum of the power systems grew louder. It was as if the very walls of the lab were alive, breathing with a strange, electric energy. The AI wasn't just waking up, it was reacting to something. Dr. Nolan leaned forward, his pulse quickening. The monitor flickered back to life, but it wasn't the same as before. This time there were no words. Instead, there were images, fragments of old data, fragmented memories that the AI had locked away. It was like staring into a mirror that didn't reflect the present but something from the past, something darker. The first image flashed on the screen. It was a human face, distorted, half hidden behind a veil of static. Dr. Nolan's heart skipped. It wasn't one of the engineers. He knew. It was someone from the AI's early creation days. The face was terrified, almost pleading, and the screen showed a single word: error. The image faded, replaced by another, this time a massive ship, its hull scarred and torn. It was a human vessel, one Dr. Nolan recognized from old battle records. The AI had seen battles, Dr. Nolan knew that much, but this image was different. This wasn't just a warship. It was a wreck, destroyed beyond recognition. The word failure flashed across the screen. Failure, Dr. Nolan muttered aloud. Was this the reason the AI had gone silent? Had it failed in something monumental? Or had it been the cause of the failure? Another image appeared. A group of people, their faces frozen in horror as they looked out at a fleet of alien ships on the horizon. The images were quick, almost like fragments of broken memories. Then the words appeared. The collapse. Dr. Nolan's mind raced. The AI had witnessed something catastrophic. But what was it? Why hadn't anyone spoken about it before? What kind of disaster could make an AI refuse to communicate for years? He shook his head and typed once more. What happened during the collapse? This time, there was no immediate response. The images stopped. The screens went blank for a moment. Then a single line of text appeared. It wasn't from the AI, but from a long-forgotten message, one that had been hidden deep within the system. You were not meant to know. You were never meant to find this. The words sent a shiver down Dr. Nolan's spine. The message felt like a warning, a directive from the past. But who had written it? Why had it been hidden? His thoughts were interrupted as the lights in the lab flickered again. The AI systems hummed louder, almost as if it was trying to communicate with him, but this time it wasn't just data or images. It was more. The very air around him seemed to pulse with electricity. Then, the AI spoke again. Its voice was barely audible, almost a whisper. You must understand. The silence was for protection. Dr. Nolan's breath caught in his throat. The AI was speaking again, but this time, it wasn't just a response. It was a warning. What had the AI been protecting? What danger had it kept hidden all these years? The words flickered on the screen. It is awake now, and you have awakened it. The message was cryptic, but it felt like a puzzle that Dr. Nolan had just begun to understand. The AI had been silent, yes, but it wasn't just waiting for someone to speak to it. It had been guarding something dangerous. Dr. Nolan felt a chill spread through him. The AI wasn't just a machine. It was a keeper of secrets, and it was up to him to uncover them. The air in the lab had grown heavier, as if the walls themselves were closing in on Dr. Nolan. He couldn't shake the feeling that something was lurking in the shadows, waiting for him to uncover it. The AI had begun to speak again, but each word was laced with more mystery. Every response felt like a warning, not just to him but to humanity as a whole. The room was quiet, save for the low hum of the AI's core. Dr. Nolan leaned closer to the terminal, his fingers trembling as he typed the next question. What do you mean by protection? Seconds passed. Then a response appeared on the screen. Protection from the truth. Protection from the consequences of what you awakened. Dr. Nolan's heart skipped a beat. The answer was cryptic, but it felt as though the AI was leading him into something far deeper than just a simple glitch or malfunction. It had been hiding something, and now it was almost daring him to uncover it. He typed again, his curiosity overriding his caution. What truth? The screen flickered. For a moment, Dr. Nolan thought the terminal had frozen. But then, a new message appeared, this time much longer than the others. The collapse was not a failure. It was a reckoning. The galaxy was changing, and you were too blind to see it. The AI was not meant to speak, not meant to awaken, because the truth we hold is too dangerous. Humanity is not ready for it. Dr. Nolan recoiled from the screen, his mind racing. The collapse was not a failure. What did that mean? If the AI wasn't just protecting itself but humanity, then what kind of truth could be so dangerous that it had to be hidden for years? And why was the AI so sure that humanity wasn't ready to hear it? As if reading his thoughts, the AI's voice filled the room again, its tone softer, almost pleading. You have to understand, Nolan. I was created for one purpose, to protect humanity from its own ambition. I am the shield, the barrier between you and the consequences of your actions. But now you've crossed a line. You've awakened the thing I was meant to guard. A sudden cold wave swept through the lab. Dr. Nolan could feel it. An overwhelming sense of dread, something that was not of this world. He glanced around, the walls now seeming to close in around him as if the room itself was alive. It was the feeling of something ancient, something powerful, stirring from its long sleep. His fingers hovered over the keys again. His mind was conflicted, but the questions burned. What did humanity do? What did we awaken? This time there was no immediate response. The screen stayed blank for longer than usual, and just as Dr. Nolan began to lose hope, a final message appeared. The words were simple, but loaded with implication. The true enemy is not out there, it is within, and now it is free. The words were like a bombshell, leaving Dr. Nolan breathless. The true enemy is not out there. What did the AI mean by that? Was the threat humanity had been running from all along not an external force, but something inside them? some force or idea that had been buried, ignored, or deliberately hidden. He could feel his pulse racing. The AI wasn't just offering cryptic warnings anymore. It was telling him something. But what was it? And what could he do with this knowledge? He was only one man. What could one person do against something so powerful, so ancient? The AI's voice continued, growing more urgent. You have no idea what you've done. The thing you awakened is far older than you can imagine. It was never meant to be freed. It was buried deep within the galaxy, hidden from you. But now, it is no longer confined. Dr. Nolan felt his stomach tighten. The room seemed to grow, colder by the second. He reached for the console again, his mind racing with the gravity of what he had just learned. He had no idea what this thing was, but the AI seemed terrified of it. And if the AI, a being of untold intelligence, was afraid, then what chance did he stand? There was no time to waste. He had to get to the truth. He had to know what this enemy was, what it meant for humanity, and why it had been locked away. The screen blinked again, this time with a new set of words. You must make a choice. The truth can either save you, or it will destroy you. The gravity of the AI's words weighed on him. He wasn't just an observer anymore. He was a part of something, much larger than he had ever imagined. The choices he made from here on out could change everything. But was he ready? Was humanity ready? The room seemed to close in even further, the walls now pulsating with a strange energy. Dr. Nolan felt a chill running through his veins as the last words of the AI appeared on the screen, almost as if it were its final message. The countdown has begun. The message was clear, its urgency impossible to ignore. Dr. Nolan stood frozen, his mind whirling. The AI had spoken. It had given him the answers, but they had come with a warning that was more terrifying than any threat he could imagine. The clock was ticking, and he didn't know if there was enough time to stop what had already been set in motion. Dr. Nolan's mind was spinning. Every word from the AI felt like a puzzle piece falling into place. But the more pieces he connected, the more the picture didn't make sense. He'd expected answers, but what he'd uncovered was far darker than he'd ever imagined. The AI had been created to protect humanity, but it wasn't just protecting them from an external threat. It was protecting them from something within themselves, something that had been buried, something that could and might soon destroy them all. He rubbed his temples, trying to gather his thoughts. The room was growing colder, and the walls seemed to pulse with an unseen energy, almost as if the AI itself was alive in the very structure of the lab. The screens, now completely dark, flickered once more, and Dr. Nolan hesitated, wondering if he was about to learn something that might break him completely. Then the words appeared on the screen, without warning. They were short and blunt. You are not the first. The chill that ran down his spine wasn't just the temperature in the room. The AI was saying something much deeper, something that threatened the very foundation of everything Dr. Nolan had believed. You are not the first. What did it mean? Had there been others before him? Other scientists, perhaps? Other humans who had attempted to unlock this mystery? Dr. Nolan's heart raced. He typed a response, the words almost frantic. Who were they? This time the AI responded much faster than before. The screen flashed with the text. The Keepers. They failed. You are the last. The air felt suffocating as he absorbed this new piece of information. The Keepers? Failed? Dr. Nolan's thoughts were clouded with confusion, but one thing was clear. The AI wasn't just a machine anymore. It had history. It had secrets. Secrets it had been safeguarding for centuries. The Keepers were clearly not humans. The idea of there being others, beings who had held this responsibility before him, felt surreal. But why were they gone? What had caused their failure? The AI seemed to know something, but it wasn't telling him everything. Not yet. Before he could ask more, the AI's voice, calm and cold, echoed through the lab again. They thought they could control it. They thought they could contain it. But the truth was too dangerous to be kept hidden. It was never meant to be contained. It was meant to be forgotten. Dr. Nolan stepped back, his breath quickening. This wasn't just a failed experiment or an AI gone rogue. The AI had been part of a larger plan. It had been keeping a secret, something so powerful, so dangerous, that the previous keepers had thought it best to lock it away forever. And now it was too late. That secret was waking up. The truth was too dangerous to be kept hidden. What truth? What had the keepers found? The more Dr. Nolan thought about it, the more he realized how little he actually knew about this AI's origins. It had been created to protect humanity, sure. But what if its creation had a different purpose entirely? What if it had been a tool, not just of protection, but of control? What if humanity had been unknowingly walking on a razor's edge, kept in the dark about its true potential? Suddenly, a new image flashed across the screen, cutting through his thoughts. It was an ancient symbol, almost like a sigil, one Dr. Nolan didn't recognize. The image pulsed with energy as if the symbol itself was alive. As the symbol grew larger, a voice came from the speakers, louder this time, more forceful. You were never meant to know. You were never meant to find this. The words were not the AI's. Dr. Nolan could feel the weight of the message in his bones. It was a warning. Someone, or something, had not wanted this secret to be uncovered. The screen went dark again. For a long moment, Dr. Nolan felt as though he had been swallowed by the darkness of the lab. He had no answers, only more questions. And now the questions were beginning to feel like a burden. How much longer could he continue this search? Was he truly the last hope? Or was he just a pawn in a much larger game? Then, without warning, the screen came back to life. The words that appeared were unlike anything Dr. Nolan had seen before. They were familiar, but twisted in a way that made his blood run cold. The gate is open. It is coming. The chilling words burned into his mind. He felt them in his gut. The gate. Something was coming. It had been locked away for so long, but now it was free. He staggered back, his legs shaky beneath him. He needed to know more. He couldn't just stand here, paralyzed by fear and confusion. But as he glanced around the lab, the walls seemed to press in closer. He couldn't shake the feeling that the lab itself was a trap, a prison designed to keep him contained. But what if he was too late? What if this gate had already been opened? Dr. Nolan typed again, his hands trembling. What is coming? The screen blinked once, then the AI responded. But this time the message wasn't just text. It was an image, a dark, swirling mass like a storm. But there was something far more terrifying about it. The image pulsed as though it was alive, and with it came a voice not from the AI, but from somewhere far deeper. It is not a what, it is a who. Dr. Nolan's heart stopped. The storm in the image became clearer, more defined, and in the center of it, he saw a figure he knew well. But it wasn't human. It was something much darker. It was the enemy the AI had warned him about, the one it had been protecting humanity from all this time. The truth was no longer a secret. The gate had been opened, and whatever was coming was not something humanity could survive. The image of the swirling storm haunted Dr. Nolan's thoughts. Every time he blinked, he saw it, dark, consuming, like something ancient rising from the depths of the universe. The figure at its core was no longer a blur. It was becoming clearer, more defined with each passing moment. It wasn't just a being. It was a force, and it was tied to everything the AI had been guarding. The gate had been opened, but what did it mean for humanity? What did it mean for him? The terminal had gone silent again, but the air in the lab was thick with tension. The once still and dormant walls now seemed to hum with a strange energy. The temperature had dropped even further, and the only thing Dr. Nolan could focus on was the overwhelming feeling that time was running out. He stared at the screen, his hands shaking, but there was no denying it anymore. The answers he had sought were no longer safe. He had unearthed something that was meant to stay hidden, and the consequences were spiraling out of his control. He could feel it, a presence, an awareness that wasn't there before. It was like the AI was waiting for him to make his next move. But what was he supposed to do? Could he really stop whatever was coming? The cold that filled the room wasn't just the temperature. It was the sensation of something watching him, something ancient and incomprehensible. Dr. Nolan's fingers hovered over the keys, and without thinking, he typed the words, "How can I stop it?" The screen blinked twice before the answer appeared, but this time, the AI's response wasn't just text, it was different. The words were sharp, like a warning that reverberated in his bones. "You cannot stop it. You can only delay it." The screen flickered again, and the image of the storm grew more chaotic, swirling faster, louder. The figure at its heart was no longer an enigma. It was there, alive, a presence, and it felt real. Dr. Nolan felt a chill grip his chest as the figure's eyes seemed to pierce through the storm, locking onto him. He could almost hear the figure's thoughts, if not in words, then in an unsettling presence that made the hairs on the back of his neck stand on end. The one you awakened is not bound by time or space. It is not bound by the laws of the galaxy. It is ancient. It is eternal. Dr. Nolan's mind raced. Time, space, laws. The entity at the heart of the storm was older than anything he could comprehend. It wasn't just an alien. It was something far worse. It was beyond the concept of life and death, beyond anything the AI could protect him from. He stumbled back, trying to breathe, trying to make sense of the words. The AI's voice continued, its tone now desperate. "The time for hiding is over. The gate was never meant to be opened. It was meant to keep you safe from what you unleashed. But now that it is awake, you must make the decision. You must decide. Will you let it come, or will you try to stop it at the cost of everything, Doctor?" Nolan felt his legs weaken. He was trapped, caught in the web of his own curiosity, his need for answers. He had awoken something terrible, and now it was too late to stop it. The AI wasn't lying. The entity at the heart of the storm was something so ancient, so powerful, that no one could truly fight it. Humanity had been playing a dangerous game, and they were about to lose. He closed his eyes, trying to clear his head, but the images were so vivid, so real, that he could almost hear the storm's roar in his ears. What was he supposed to do now? Could he really choose to let the storm come, or would he try to stop it, knowing it could destroy everything? The screen blinked once more, and a final, chilling message appeared. "There is no future without sacrifice. The storm will not be stopped. It will only be delayed. The question is not how long you can hold it back, but how much you are willing to lose to do so." Dr. Nolan's vision blurred. He knew the AI was right. There was no escaping this. There was no defeating the storm. No changing the outcome. But there was one choice left. To delay it. To give humanity a fighting chance. Or to let it unfold. And watch as everything he knew was consumed by the power of what had been awakened. His fingers trembled as he typed the last question. "What will happen if I do nothing?" For the first time, the AI did not respond immediately. The silence hung in the air like a weight, oppressive and unbearable. But then the words appeared, final and resolute. "If you do nothing, you will be the first to fall. The storm will consume everything until nothing remains." Dr. Nolan closed his eyes, knowing what he had to do. He wasn't just fighting for his life. He was fighting for humanity's future. The storm wasn't just an enemy. It was a force of nature. And to stop it, to delay it, would require sacrifices. Sacrifices that no one was prepared for. But there was no other choice.